got mail. Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K Now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Emlyn, your host for the next hour, along with Nick.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Spence is here.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. And Gal is here.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Katie caught a little cold, so she's not going to be with us this morning. Our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And today's show is made possible by vMix Software and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. At least this morning, even though the time changed, we're not tired. We're actually more refreshed, right? More awake.
One would hope.
Oh.
The hardest thing I had to do this morning is press a button on my alarm clock that says DST. It turns it on and off, so I don't have to reset that clock. That was the hardest thing I did today.
What about your fridge and your coffee maker and your microwave?
Pam did most of that stuff. I had to set.
Ah,
I have to do the analog clocks because we have two analog clocks in the kitchen.
those aren't automatic?
No, they're just plain old put a battery in and let them go. But the one that I like the most, I have the John Cleese Silly Walks clock. It's basically John Cleese on the background, but it's his two legs going around as the minute and hour hand. It's great. Although it's the hardest thing with doing those is getting them back on the wall because where the
damn
pin
screw.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went last night and kind of did. What did I see here? Spence, look at your shot.
My shot. Oh, well.
What's wrong with Spencer's shot?
Oh, I see something.
Interesting.
Well, what do I see there?
It's not Spence.
Wait a second. It's not Spence.
No, that's not me because
No.
It's you, Amnon.
It's me.
It's been you all along.
I see.
Sure,
that.
sure.
Hold
Blame
it, hold
somebody
it, hold
else.
it. No, it's okay. It's all right. It's okay. Let's see about doing this and then bring it up. Yeah, because
There you go.
I lowered
it.
it. I lowered it because I could, when I go over, I
You
could
touched
see.
it? You touched it?
I touched it.
How dare you?
Yeah,
Your
it's
grubby
okay
little
there.
hands
It's
off.
saved. It's
For those
fine.
who are just listening, Amnon just fixed the way the image looks on the video. It's fine.
I don't know, Nick. I did it again this morning. I started and it's like the image on the reruns machine is just on the upper left corner, so I had to stretch it again.
Maybe there was an earthquake this morning and it moved everything.
And you Nick, you never see the message out of range on yours, do you?
No, I don't use a capture card.
Yeah.
Like you do.
So there was always, once I turned this off, it says out of range in the center of the shot on the reruns. And once I stretched it and did it, everything was fine. When I turn off, that out of range is all the way on the bottom right and only half of it, because it suddenly it gets big. I'm beginning to wonder if it's that video switch, the video
It very
splitter.
well could be.
Yeah. It's old. Anyway. What were we talking about when I so rudely
Did
interrupted?
Amnon just say something ageist?
What did I say?
Yeah. Just getting
Said
old.
it's
he
old.
said.
Oh,
Yeah.
hey, look. I'm not ashamed of it or hide it or whatever.
Pam's uncle had it right. You'll either get older or you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good too. Yeah.
It's like Don Macmillan's statistics on marriage, right? He says 46% of marriages end in divorce. But the other 54%, right? They end in death. So
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yep. So anyway, what happened this week?
Oh, well,
Nothing that sticks out,
I cleaned my bird feeders.
well,
'Cause
I was
the birds
able
just stopped coming to my bird feeder.
Wow.
because what? Because the seeds were stale?
It could be that. Actually, I was getting down to the bottom of a couple of bags, and I mixed them together with a cheap brand and a good brand, and I think that's what did it. So I dumped that out and I washed them yesterday and put them back up, and they're coming back. So
Okay. Well,
that's
on
a
the
nice part of looking out your kitchen window from the sink and seeing the bird feeders out there and the birds having a good time.
yeah, we got a neighbor who has hole where they come to feed. I always worry, like, is that a good idea to sometimes all you want to do is just get rid of the animal life, and here you're
Mm.
bringing an animal life. I don't think you live in a community that is so tightly packed like ours, right? So
Well, if you lived in New York, they would take care of that for you.
What do you mean? Who would?
This guy who was a big TikTok and Instagram contributor had a rescued squirrel and a rescued raccoon. He's got a rescue farm, apparently, a lot of other animals, but someone complained about the animal. I don't know the full story, but somebody complained about the animals and they came and took the squirrel and the raccoon and euthanized.
Oh, come on.
People are very upset about it because it was a very popular thing on Instagram and TikTok.
Uh,
Fred the uh, raccoon and Peanut the squirrel.
boy, they had names and they euthanized
Yep.
them.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh.
it was he rescued it. The story was that the mother was killed and he rescued the baby, the squirrel baby, and brought it up in his household. And it would tried to release it, but the squirrel came back. Its part of its tail was chewed off, so it realized that it didn't have the survival skills. So we decided to keep it as a pet inside. And state of New York got I don't know what agency it was that came, but they got a complaint and they came, they literally had like a SWAT raid in this guy's house. They went through his whole house looking for stuff. It's like, what are you looking for exactly? And for hours, they had him sitting there basically while they searched his house.
Not enough homework. Not enough
I
crime.
don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's what that was where it became viral. They say, you're not arresting the people that are actually hurting other people, but you're
Yeah.
doing this to somebody who's got a squirrel.
Yeah.
So,
All right. We were talking about for the last few weeks about Internet Archive. Nick, last week you said that you were playing something out of it.
Correct.
They're still not all the way up, even though they don't have that information. But I everything is working except I cannot upload.
Yeah. So that
I
makes
didn't
makes
see any
sense.
information about not being able to upload. That was
Well, are they still blocking logins?
no. You can log in and everything.
Oh,
Yeah, you
well,
can
that because
log in.
we couldn't do that last week. We couldn't log in,
Right,
and
we
you
couldn't
try to
log
log
in.
in,
Yeah,
and it
they
would tell
you
you there was an error.
yeah you can. I figured. Oh, okay, everything is fine. Well, everything is fine except uploading. So that I use. I don't know what else is down. So it's still we still don't have the shows since the 10:06 or something like this on the audio of it. But
I was reading reading something
There-
about how there may be some things so they will not be able to restore.
I don't need to restore. Oh,
No, I mean
I don't.
their site. There are things that they think may have been lost.
Well, yeah, but this is a feature that without it, Internet Archive is worthless.
Oh
Well,
yeah, no, I
in the
understand.
for new content,
Yeah.
I would say it's not useless in regards to the headbytes of data that they've got on there right now.
No, no. It's useless for people to update. I mean, it's going to stay a stagnant site if they don't have the
Yeah.
upload feature.
Sure, but
That's
they
kinda
will
what it is.
soon add
Yeah,
that back, I'm
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, they've been doing it slowly, and slower is better than
Never.
in a hasty way to just, poof, do it and then screw something up. It's
Well, and the one difference is, unlike a for-profit business that has quote unquote customers, right? Where time is of the essence, and we've seen, AT&T or whoever has an outage or an issue, um, they have to kind of rush to get things
yeah,
back up and running. Um, archive.org doesn't really have that
yeah,
issue per se.
and they also don't have the manpower to sit there and
I'm sure they have the manpower, but there's no they're not it's not like they're losing money by day,
yeah,
and people are going to switch to an alternative. I mean, there's nothing like the Internet Archive. I mean,
true.
it doesn't exist.
No,
Or if you invented a time machine, you wouldn't have any problem. You could just go back and look and come back to present.
That's also true.
Yeah.
so cable companies, advertising firms, and newspapers are asking courts to block a federal click to cancel rule that would force businesses to make it easier for consumers to cancel services. Lawsuits were filed about a week ago after the Federal Trade Commission approved a rule that requires sellers to provide consumers with simple cancellation mechanism to immediately halt all recurring charges. So if you wanted to cancel something that you subscribe to or subscribe to, you should, and it's easy to subscribe to, just click it here. Well, they want it to be
Who
the
is
same for unsubscribing.
who is the politician that managed to pass this rule? We need to give him a raise.
Well,
Was it
Like
a
he
was it a
managed
law?
no, it said a rule. I don't know
Yeah,
what
so
that
that's the
means.
FCC.
it's the
would class
FCC.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
So whoever that pencil
The
pusher
F
is, I I literally love him right now.
It's not the FCC, it's the FTC.
FTC,
FTC.
really? Federal
Yeah.
Trade
Yeah.
Commission? Oh,
Yeah.
I can see why they would want to be involved, but actually, I'm surprised. It's interesting to see what the FCC feels about it.
It would be the FTC, be the Federal Trade Commission,
Yeah.
that would be in on this.
But I mean, the nerve of
Yeah, I'm trying to think what would be the reasoning of the lawsuit, right? Like
yeah,
I'm the business, and I am now trying to revert this rule. It's like, what is my where
reason.
am I getting hurt?
On what
Right?
ground do you do that?
Yeah, like where's the wrongdoing in making that? It's like
Yeah.
what's the excuse?
Well, the
Uh,
wrongdoing is simple. It allows customers to more easily, quote unquote, take money out of you by canceling a subscription.
Well, why is
They
it
don't-
okay for
but
you
but
to
you're
take
already you already need to be like, if I'm doing a subscription, I'm
Mm.
not I'm not I'm not signing with blood, right? There's no way that I can get out of that subscription. So
That's true.
what
but the harder it is to get out of a subscription, the less likely a consumer is to spend the time to
Right.
do it.
Yep.
And
Right.
that's what it comes down to. I mean,
It's like the gift. It's
Right,
like
but what
the
you're saying does not show a reason for a business to go to the government and say you can't make me do that.
well,
Right?
no, I'm
That's
not
what I'm
arguing that.
saying.
Yeah, I don't know what the grounds of the lawsuit is, but I'm saying
Exactly.
from the business standpoint, I mean, and this is more relevant when it comes to cheap subscriptions, right? Because if you're paying $3.99 a month for something, whatever it might be, some online website or something like that, and it's a pain in the ass to cancel it, you might just be like, yeah, it's $4, whatever. It's worth more of my time. This is how people are. I mean, it's worth more of my time to pay $4 a month than to go back and forth with this company to cancel it. And that's a real. I mean, that's why gyms are the greatest example of this. It's
think-
impossible to cancel a freaking gym subscription. It's
especially
such a pain in the ass.
Planet Fitness
Yeah,
is one of the most notorious. Well, think about
it's
the story that just came out the last week or two about the federal government, the Department of Justice suing Virginia to stop them from removing non-eligible voters from the voters roll. How, why would you not want to do that? Why would you not want to go ahead and purge people who are not eligible to vote?
Yeah,
if there's a
and
will, there's a way legally. That's
Oh,
what it
yeah.
comes down
No,
to.
I know. It's
well, Nick, what you started saying, yeah, takes it takes money away from the business because
Absolutely.
it makes it harder. But you
But
also
the business is
took
already taking money
right
away from the
in
customer,
an easy
right?
way.
So
In an easy
yeah,
way, yeah.
Yes.
exactly. So something
Yeah.
I'm trying to find if I'm going to a judge, right? I don't know. It's probably never going to see a jury. It's just a judge, right? So if I'm going to a judge and I'm saying I am going to be hurt by this, how am I positioning my point to show that I am
Yeah.
I'm not stealing money to
Yep.
get to start with,
Yep.
right?
probably
That's where I find
probably by saying that. Well, people, if they want to cancel, they can. Right?
So this is
right,
what
so
the
make it
actual
easier.
Yeah.
so this is what the suit is. They're not suing over what's being done here. The
Okay.
Internet and Television Association filed the suit arguing that the FTC overstepped its authority, which past law or past legal challenges, including non-competes, would indicate that this would be accurate. And if you'll remember, the Chevron deference, which came out probably about 8 months ago, was a major change in how agencies like the FTC, what I'll call, like it or not, unelected bureaucrats, that's what these positions are: FTC, SEC, FCC, all of these agencies under the Chevron deference in years past, all they had to do was pass a rule, put it through the 180, 120 day open public comment period, get accept comments, follow the protocol, and then they would adopt new rules. And when they were sued, a court would say, under the previous Chevron deference, would say, essentially, because you're an agency and you made this rule and you followed the proper procedure and protocol, we're going to allow it to stand. Because the Chevron deference is now null and void, these agencies no longer have this blanket protection under rulemaking. And so that's what this challenge is.
So
and just like we saw with the non-compete rule, which the FTC was blown out over and will continue to be blown out over, it's likely to be the same thing here. This will not stand because they don't have the authority to do this.
So in a way, this lawsuit is on a technicality.
It's not on a technicality at all. It's saying it'd be like you.
No,
it'd be
it's
like
a political one. That's all.
But it'd be like, golly, you pulling me over and writing me a ticket. You don't have
Yeah.
the
authority.
the
Yeah, no, I get
jurisdiction
it.
to pull
So
me over.
the lawsuit is a political one. It's not about the content of the ruling.
Absolutely.
It's about the process.
Okay.
It's absolutely a procedural issue that the Federal Trade Commission under Lena Khan, who has done an abysmal job as the chair, is overstepping their bounds in this click to cancel rule. And we've
Hmm.
seen this with almost everything that the FTC, even prior to the Chevron change earlier this year, we have seen the FTC. I can only imagine the hundreds of millions of dollars that the FTC has pissed away with various rules and antitrust challenges that have been, in some cases, literally laughed out of federal courts by both Republican and Democrat judges. This is not just like, oh, a bunch of MAGA Trump judges
No,
going
no,
hard on Lena Khan. I mean,
yeah.
this is like the Federal Trade Commission under Lena Khan is an absolute freaking joke. It is so anti-business. It is a disgrace what she's done with the FTC. I
And to
cannot
give
whether Trump or Harris wins, if nothing else, I hope Lena Khan loses her job. She is absolutely freaking awful.
and imagine the circumstances that brought this on to be looked at as if you were a farmer and you have one day of rain on your land, that water pools in one place on your land for one day a year, you're now a wetland. And rules that apply to a wetland apply now to your property. You can't build a pond, you can't build a road, you can't put up power lines, you can't do anything that
And
would
that's the
affect that spot.
FTC rule?
Huh?
That's an FTC rule?
No, that's an EPA rule.
Okay,
But it's
well,
just-
let's
but
not.
But all of this comes back to the Chevron doctrine.
Yes.
And so it's going to make it very hard for any federal agency, any three-letter agency that you can think of, to go forward with rulemaking like this. They'll have to do, which is what I think they should do, is go to Congress and ask them to pass legislation to do the things that they want and allow Congress and then ultimately the president to decide whether these rules need to be, well, they wouldn't be rules. In that case, they'd be laws, whether these laws need to be passed or not. That's what this comes down to. And it's only been like 8 months since the Chevron decision took place. And you're starting to see now that this rulemaking is it's not what it used to be, which is just essentially an agency writes a rule and it gets rubber stamped, and there's jack shit you can do about it, essentially, unless you're a major company that can take them to court and to actually win. That's very hard to do.
So the
Yeah.
Chevron case was a 1984 ruling
Mhm.
that said that Chevron versus the National Resource Defense Council required courts to defer the federal agency's interpretation of ambiguous laws.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
And-
Whoever filled those seats on the board was the one that would determine whether this was valid or not.
Yeah. And
No,
you could sue
absolutely.
them. Let me be clear. You could take them to court, but
Yeah.
it was called the deference would be to those agencies for
Yep.
for the rulemaking, which
Yep.
in this case. Now here's the thing. Click to cancel, I think, is a good thing. I mean, I think the ability for me to easily cancel a subscription as a consumer is a good thing. The question is, does this federal agency have the ability to do this carte blanche? And even though I agree with the rule, the answer is probably not. This is something that needs to go through. It's going to have to go through legislation, which something like this probably passes pretty easily. Like this seems like it's a bipartisan, something that should be pretty bipartisan if it was to make its way through Congress. And so I don't know that this is a highly controversial issue. So yeah, but that's how it's going to be for the foreseeable future.
There are
And-
services,
yeah.
pay for services that will, like Rocket Money has an offering. where you
Yeah,
can
I've
And
seen
cancel
that.
now
subscriptions.
you know the rest of the story.
Story. Yep.
So listen to this now. If you want to sign up for a subscription on Hulu or Disney Plus, don't bother taking out your iPhone. Disney is now telling would-be customers to pay for subscriptions on Disney's own site instead of an Apple App Store.
Bing, bing,
Though-
bing, 30%.
Though people who've already started paying for other service via Apple can keep doing that. The two companies are still working together on some projects, but the App Store split does represent a rift between two longtime partners, so it's definitely worth noting. It's things like this is what start doing, what giving developers and people that have apps on the App Store a little bit of uh, more power to stop it. It's like what happened with Epic and then some others. Now this, I mean, this is kind of big.
It's this enough of these major companies do this, and
Yep,
there will become a period of time where Apple has no choice but to change
their
the
rules.
way in which they change the way in which they do this, but
Yep,
um not until there's enough of it. Disney and obviously and Hulu's a major one,
yep,
but it's not enough. I mean, you'd have to see essentially a mass boycott. But see, the other issue with this, we were just talking about the ease of canceling a subscription. You as a company have to decide the ease of taking money from a customer. And if now they are required to go through extra steps on secondary websites and services, now you're in a position where it's harder for you to get a subscription, and that's also not good,
hmm,
which is why many companies have eaten the 30% thing the entire time, because it's just like, hey, it's ease of subscription, it's ease of use.
yeah, yep.
But
Oh, but
it has been done, right? Epic we're still doing millions and millions and millions of dollars without, right? That was the lawsuit, right? They didn't want to use what was it? They were out of the iPhone store, right? The
Yes, yeah,
iOS store,
they
right?
broke
Because
iOS's
they
rules.
right. So running your customers through hoops to join you, right? When you have a good product, right? They'll join you. Not a problem.
yeah, but I mean, the thing was that Apple took so much.
Yeah, they're still taking.
Yeah, well,
So is Google, right? And it's fine for them to take it as long as me as a business, I'm willing to share that income with them, right? But if I'm not, because I know that it's going because I know I can provide a revenue stream outside of their system. I still need their ecosystem to just deploy the application. Then it's on me. I think I mean all of these cases, right? We look at them, and although it's business to business, we when at least when I'm looking at it, I'm always replacing the big business here, right, with just somebody doing it on their own, right? Writing a small game on their own, writing a small app on their own, and if they want some sort of subscription or some sort of payment, they need to have the choice of how they receive that money.
yeah,
I'm
Yep.
back and forth on this. I mean, I'm not an I have an iPhone, but I'm not an Apple
fanboy.
I'm not an Apple cultist by any stretch. I have an iPhone. I don't, well, contrary to what you see behind me, I don't have any modern Mac. That computer's from what, Amnon, 2010.
I don't
It's
know.
like 20 years old. Um, but I see it both ways. If I'm Apple and I run the ecosystem and I run the App Store and all of these other things, I want to charge the most that I can to operate that. And it sucks for the end user. Like, or for the guy like Gall was describing, the small app developer, a guy that's trying to make a couple bucks with a game or a subscription. But it's one of those things. Let me move my camera, man. You've got me cropped so low. It's like my head is barely
That's
head is barely on the thing. There we go. It's one of those things where you know the stakes before you get into it. You know that Apple's going to charge 30%. You know Steam's going to charge 30%, and then you have to decide whether you want to play that game. Google does the same thing, except you can use alternative app stores and kind of skirt around it. So I'm always torn on this one. I don't know that there's a right answer.
Don't tear yourself.
I don't know. Like I see it from both sides. Like Apple's not hiding or being sneaky or nefarious about what they're doing. It's been the case since 2010 when the iPhone came out. They have their app store, they have their ecosystem. It's closed. They charge a premium to be on their, not to be on their app store, but a premium to have an app and to make money on it. And if you play the game, you know the game you're playing when you go into it. It doesn't make it right, but it's not, to me, it's not like they're not pulling a sheet over anybody's eyes and being like, ah ha ha, now we got you. Now we're gonna do this. It's how the app store has always been operated, at least in the modern app store.
Right, but so here's the thing. We just talked about the right to unsubscribe, right? Sort of. That should be correct, right? To everybody, not just for me as an individual with a service, a company as an entity working with another service. They should have the right to do something differently. And in this case, you are the platform that I'm going to put my app on. And if you want to charge me for, I don't know, the deployment costs that I'm costing you, yes, I will pay that. That's one thing. But you want to cut in on my profits just because you can and I cannot do, because part of the contracts, right, are so that you cannot even mention that there is another way to pay.
Correct.
Right. And just by reading that, I think we agree that is a wrong entry in the contract. It shouldn't be allowed.
See, that's the thing. While inherently I think it's too much and it's too high, I don't know that I would say wrong. I mean,
not fair.
Does it need? Well, yeah, but again, not fair says who? I mean, that's the thing, is all of this stuff is so objective. Like, again, not an Apple apologist. I mean, for example, I bought the new Call of Duty on Steam. It was $70. Steam takes 30%. Now, Activision owns Battle.net, the Activision Blizzard launcher. They chose to put their game on Steam, which is the #1 PC video game marketplace, instead of their own platform, which they have, because they know it is worth for them to eat the 30% and sell potentially millions or hundreds of thousands of more copies of the game, even though they have to eat 30% when I buy it there versus on their own system. And so they make that trade-off and determine it is worth the 30% of $70 to sell it on Steam to get to have a potential larger player base. They've done that calculation, because if not, I would have to go and buy it on Battle.net, of which I already have an account.
Right. But, and here's the but, you can launch it on Battle.net. That Battle.net shows you that there's an option to buy stuff on there.
Correct.
Steam doesn't say you should not advertise that you can buy it elsewhere. And that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. It's not about not limiting. It's about my app, if it's on your ecosystem, cannot even show that you can pay by PayPal. Right? That's the thing. That's the problem.
But see, they don't block you from doing that. They block you from promoting it, yes, but they don't. What they're not do.
It shouldn't be mentioned in the app at all.
I agree, but I'm saying, like, for example, I use Patreon to support some content creators that I like. I pay for Patreon on the web using whatever Stripe or whatever payment processor that Patreon uses. And I have the Patreon app on my iPhone. I log into the app and I see all of the content that I get for being a patron.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that, like that's what's weird about it is they're not cutting out any app that has a subscription outside of the store. But like Gal mentioned, they do not permit you to promote that. Now, like what Disney's doing, they're just not going to let you sign up in the app. They're not going to tell you to go sign up elsewhere. They're just not going to let you sign up. And you're going to have to stumble into this yourself and say, okay, go to Disney.com or whatever the hell the website is to sign up for Disney Plus and Hulu and do it there. That's how Disney's decided they're going to handle it because they're, I guess, done giving Apple the 30% of the subscription. And that's going to be their solution. I'm torn by it because I don't know. Who is the arbiter of what is, who am I to be the arbiter of what is right and wrong in regards to what Apple wants to do with their wholly owned and operated ecosystem? I mean, that's where my struggle is what leverage, what position of power am I in to tell Apple what they should or shouldn't do in regards to, again, their own closed ecosystem. It's a moral quandary that I have. That's all. Even though I think it's bullshit. Let me be clear. I think charging 30% like Apple and Steam does is bullshit. I just don't know that I don't know what makes me the authority on it.
So
let's not dive too deep into it because it's
the only I'll say this. Just while I agree that the cut shouldn't be that deep, right? Specifically with Steam, Steam brings in an audience, and you can say the same with Apple. Although Apple, it's pretty much a captive audience because there's no other option, right? So, and the part of letting the user know that there is an alternative, okay, that is always a problem. And besides, I'm okay with anybody taking a 30% cut if you come to me and you say, hey, you can buy it here, right, and pay 30% extra because that's my cost, and you buy here and you pay 30% less, hey, I'm fine with that as well, right? I wish that was the case, but even that we don't see, right? Yeah.
All right, let's switch here now.
I got to run.
Okay, Nick.
So
safe travels.
Yep. We'll be back next week. Be an interesting one.
Yeah. Oh, I thought the world was going to end.
Well, it may or may not. So we'll be back at it next Sunday.
All right.
Talk to you guys. See ya.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Windows 10. Windows 10 support set to expire on October 14th, 2025. We all know it. But Microsoft is offering a one-time, 1-year extended security updates plan for consumers for $30. For $30, you'll receive critical and important security updates. Basically, security patches that will continue to protect your Windows 10 PC from any vulnerabilities. That $30 is for 1 year's worth of updates, and that's the only option at this time. So,
and that doesn't include feature updates, obviously. Yeah.
You know, I mean, how long have Windows 7 been out?
Oh, gee. 15 years?
Why do I? No. I mean, when was it put to, hey, we don't support?
Rest?
I've got one machine here that I still use Windows 7 on. And I wish there were no updates because it screws up every time.
So the test people aren't doing their job on something they don't really care about.
I mean, I don't know why I see Windows updates on Windows 7. But anyway,
Because they're finding out about threats and vulnerabilities that have been there all along, and they feel obligated to fix it.
I doubt Microsoft feels
So
obligated for anything.
Windows 7, Windows 10, Windows 11,
Yeah.
the architecture underlying these
Is the same.
systems
Yeah.
is pretty much
Okay.
the same.
same.
There are subsystems that have changed, right? And but most of them were just subsystems that were added and integrated into, let's call it the kernel. Okay, it's not exactly that way, but so maybe that's what they're doing with Windows 7, right? It's like we made this patch for Windows 10, Windows 11. This will probably also work on Windows 7. Let's issue it there. What I'm interested in, so I get what they're doing with the one-time $30 because they're basically collecting data. They're collecting how important it is, right, for consumers, and who are these consumers who are willing to pay $30 for something that we have decided we're abandoning, right? And so I think it's on their side, it's a very smart move in terms of understanding how important that old market is. Okay. What I don't get is just like Windows 7, because you've never paid a penny extra other than the license that you bought for Windows 7,
Right.
right? Is you still get updates. Isn't that what's going to happen with anybody who's going to run Windows 10? It's not as if it's going to test their license before it installs the update. So the fact that I paid or didn't pay $30, I'm probably still going to get those updates. At least if we look at their past behavior, right? Microsoft never cut off any specific channel out of updates. So
We'll have to wait
what
and see
gives?
what happens. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And
And
eventually it'll probably only end with okay, so you have Windows 10, just make sure you have this registry entry and then you'll get updates for another year or
did
something
you
like that.
did you know that you can reinstall Windows 11 without losing anything?
Yeah, since Windows 7 that's the case. When you install, it just moves everything to windows.old.
Yeah, but what happens
You had
to
the option to do that. Yeah, I've
What?
done many of those.
and
Reinstalls.
you and all your programs and everything will still run?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
no,
did. Yeah,
no.
no. That's what
No.
I'm talking about. Your installed programs and the data. I mean, everything will work the same way.
Only if you run the installer from within Windows 11.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's the
If
thing
you
is
if
that
you run it from USB, it does not do it.
it says that if you want to reinstall Windows 11, you can do it without losing installed programs or data. It says navigate to Settings, System, and click
Yes.
Recovery. And in the recovery window, click Reinstall Now.
Yeah.
Reinstall now. That's I don't think
Yeah, it
that's in
downloads
Windows
the
10.
it download the setup and reinstalls. Yeah.
And it says now you'll see a new window prompting you to make sure the PC is connected to the internet and power, and it'll start doing it,
Right. So uh
which is interesting and very good. I mean, they made a big deal out of it. So apparently
I don't know who
it's
made a big deal out of it. It's nothing new. What is new, what was new to me, so this is you asked what happened this week. This week I get a call from family back in Israel.
yeah.
It's like late evening over there, and it's a computer that I helped them buy and installed for them and stuff. And and after a reboot, Windows doesn't boot up. Gets the blue screen with
Mhm.
the menu,
Yep.
and says I wasn't able to recover, basically. and I do not get a substantial reason. It's just failing, can't do it, failing, can't do it. I don't know if there was another prompt before, but so a WhatsApp call, they're holding the phone in front of the screen because this cannot be remote controlled. I'm going through all of the settings in the BIOS and stuff. I'm thinking maybe the kid, he's a teenager, maybe touch something. What might be going on there? And eventually, after going through forums, I think I was with them a total of 2 hours. After about an hour, I figure out a way of recreating the boot, the EUFI boot, through certain steps. Using the USB key to created by the media creation tool, and booting into command line, running a bunch of commands, figuring that out. I get to a situation where, okay, now Windows actually starts booting but fails immediately because of an unsigned driver, right?
Oh, wow.
Which to my gut reaction, that might have been the issue from the start,
Yeah.
right? But it just, for some reason, it never displayed that message. It
Yeah.
just showed something else. Anyway, so how the hell did that happen? I have zero idea. But figuring out how to go to secure boot, saying, okay, boot with untrusted drivers, right? Let's try that. I was actually hesitant because that can also be an introduction for a rootkit, for example, right? It's scary. I gotta say, it's not.
Yeah,
I wasn't.
Yeah.
But in this case, I tell them we're this far from reinstalling Windows anyway, right? So I'm gonna try this. The thing is that what you're describing, right, that reinstallation of Windows, which is, I think, the best way to recover an OS that you're certain that things should work, right? It's not like a very highly modified system, but you do want the OS itself to reinstall and leave the rest there. And that means cleaning up the registry in the system region, and removing everything from the OS folders and reinstalling. That's the way I see it, right? So not everything will work. Let's say if you had an antivirus there, that might malfunction after the boot, but because that's modifying the system. But if you have, I don't know, Office, right, then it's fine. Then Office should work because that's in a separate part of the registry that only deals with its content, right? And it's a separate part of the file system. So it should be fine.
Should be.
That option only exists when Windows is working. Why isn't it available from the installer itself?
Yeah.
That's all I
Yep.
want, right? That's all I want.
Yeah.
What is the big problem? And so that's because it used to be that way in, well, definitely XP, but even after XP, I'm pretty sure Windows 7 was that way as well, right? And at some point, they decided to just, no, when you're booting from the USB, it's like all or nothing. We're either wiping it completely, but there's no sort of in-place upgrade, right? That went away. So yeah, took about 2 hours of my life. And the thing is I always see the impending doom. No, this isn't gonna work. I'm gonna need to spend like another 6 hours in remote stuff to just make sure that they
So
have
did you
system
figure out
running.
which driver it was?
Yeah, found the files, removed them. Once I removed them, booted the system.
And what didn't work?
Nothing. Just there was a specific driver. It was an Intel Rapid Storage driver, basically, which is
Dang.
it's important, but not that important. But the thing is, after removing it and I told it to update, then it picks
They
up
put it.
the
Yeah.
the signed version of the
Right.
driver, and everything worked. It was just an annoyance.
It is an
And
annoyance.
and
It's
the
an
thing is that the system is set up in a way that it shouldn't allow unsigned drivers to be added, but somehow it was allowed, right? That was the weirdest part, because when I did the refresh, it didn't want to allow the unsigned driver be installed again. So I removed it completely, then told it to update, and it figured out the right driver. The system is resilient and all that, but it's not very friendly in explaining how do I get out of this mess.
All right, then talking about Windows 11, and I see Spence answered John in the chat. John was asking, he said, is there any discussion of making Windows 11 work on older PCs? I don't know that there's any discussion that they're talking about it.
No,
Do you know
no,
any? Okay.
and they won't. They won't. The decision to not support older PCs is not, it's not necessarily a technological one or an ageist one. It is a security one. It all has to do with the encryption capabilities of the CPUs and the chipset. While it's possible to work around those manually by either installing some software that'll do it, the performance hit is very, very impactful. And with software, you can still, it's not as secure. Basically, the key to all of this is what Microsoft is calling secure boot. That's the reason. Before, with hardware before the 2016 mark, sort of, they cannot make sure, they cannot prevent a system from being tempered and undetected. That the temper will be undetected. So because they cannot make sure that they cannot identify tampering, that's the reason. So yeah, it's. But I think it's a good choice. It's a right choice.
I think so too, because it's a fundamental thing of the way they're protecting core memory and having open access to the CPU. Think about it. If it says operating system can load and use TPM, that's the reason, the hardware necessary.
Yeah.
And it provides the safe boot to prevent malware from finding a way in. And if you try to put it on a Windows 10 capable machine that doesn't have a TPM, then you're bypassing all of that secure boot.
There, in all honesty, though, it all depends how old the machine is, the motherboard is, because I mean, on my machine here that I'm running for for the production, I cannot install Windows 11, even though
Right.
it's a what is it? I think
Got
it's
a TPM. It has a TPM.
It doesn't.
No, it
But
doesn't have the.
It doesn't
Yeah.
have TPM. It's a pretty recent. I mean, it's a I think 9th generation or some. I can't remember. But I can, if I know exactly the one, you can get a module, I mean, a hardware piece that will plug into one of your PCI Express, or into one of the, what do you call them? The memory, not the memory, but the hard drive.
SATA.
Oh,
No.
M2
The
slots.
M2.
And some of them have dedicated. Some have dedicated TPM slots that just aren't used.
Well, that's maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at it some time ago, and I said, "Yeah, I'll just buy it," and it's like $20 or something like that. But you start looking, and there are so many different ones that's supposed to work on this motherboard. But if there are so many, and you go even to the manufacturer, and they say, "Just look on the
Because
web."
it's all about a chip, so anybody can manufacture something with that chip.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I may end up doing it and get one and blow that $20 and see if it'll work. For
Look,
now,
there's a positive to all of this.
Yeah.
you have an old computer and you can't upgrade it to Windows 10. Welcome to the world, the fantastic world of Linux.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, that's right.
Start using a better thing.
Better operating
I'm
system.
reading now. A friend recommended a book, an old essay. Basically, it's not really a hefty book. It's a rather short one, called "In the Beginning." In the beginning was the command line, by Neil Stevenson. Neil Stevenson, he's an author. He writes historical fiction and some science fiction. He's a very interesting author, and this was one of the first thing he published, as far as I understood. And I'm just in the beginning, but he's talking about, like, the sheer idea that people these days are discussing something so technically ingrained like an operating system, right? And the choice of operating system is just ludicrous. It's amazing, and he starts with some analogies of all of the system. He wrote it when BOS was the new shiny thing, and he's describing like the different types. It says, if you envision a crossroads where there are 4 car dealerships, there's one huge car dealership, and that's Microsoft, and they started with selling up beat up single motor stuff at the beginning, and they grew during that time. That was MS-DOS until they got to Windows. And then there's this like niche
Dealerships.
they only like niche dealership who sells like European stylish cars, and that's Apple, right? And because they sell the hardware, but you cannot look inside. You don't have any access. No tools will work with it, etc. And you get you get
You get
two
the
other.
idea.
You got like this, and here on the fourth corner, you got a bunch of volunteers who have found a way to build tanks, and they got them lined up, and all you need to do is just, and with the key and ignition in it, and all you need to do is just go and pick one. And but still 90% they go to the big car dealership,
Yeah.
right? And says, why, come, grab a tank. These are like resilient, nothing can happen to them. And you go and you say, yeah, but I don't know how to maintain a tank. It
Right.
says, yeah, but you don't know how to maintain the car either. Right?
It will happen. It will
we
happen.
have
I
we
mean,
have we
we've-
have a score of volunteers that will fix it for you. But no. so
Yeah, it's
so
it,
yeah, so I'm enjoying the read for now.
Yeah. Okay. OpenAI on Thursday launched a search feature within ChatGPT that positions the high-powered AI startup to better compete with search engines like Google, Microsoft's Bing, and Perplexity. ChatGPT Search offers up-to-the-minute sports scores, stock quotes, news, weather, and more. Powered by real-time web search and partnerships with news and data providers. According to the company, it began beta testing the search engine called Search GPT in July. This will be great if it's an add-on that you can put on your favorite browser.
I mean, all you need to do to make it is to make it the homepage or your preferred search engine.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's easy.
but that's nice.
I wonder though, I mean, up until now, the big deal with LLMs, right, is, as we discussed, is they're bullshit generators. They do not know
Yeah.
when something is right and when something is incorrect. I wonder if the search engine is accurate, and all it's doing is using the LLM to understand the query more than provide, like, just create the path to the data instead of trying to invent the data. Okay, so if that's the case, then yes, then it's interesting. I think some of it is what Bing were doing at first with the ChatGPT engine. Yeah. By the way, one of the easiest way to actually interface with AI today in a almost, I wouldn't be like 100% sure about the privacy there, but like with a much better privacy would be to use DuckDuckGo's interface to AI. So DuckDuckGo, the privacy-centric search engine, if you go to duck.ai, it takes you to a page they have where you can interface with an AI. It does not save any personal information. It does not save your prompt history, and you can choose one of 4 engines to interface with. One of them is ChatGPT. The other one is Claude. So you can play around and see which of the AIs is more you're more comfortable with, and you're exposing much less of yourself compared to any other interface you're using with AI. And no login. No login is required, which is important.
And talking about all this bullshit generators,
Mhm.
this one says tech behemoth OpenAI has touted its artificial intelligence powered transcription tool, Whisper, as having near human level robustness and accuracy. But Whisper has a major flaw. It is prone to making up chunks of text or even entire sentences, according to interviews with more than a dozen software engineers, developers, and academic researchers.
So is it accurate or is it not
It's
accurate?
well,
Like, it's like, come on.
that's
It's
the thing.
accurate, but it lies.
You have
Yeah.
to subscribe.
Great.
You have to make sure that you're set up to search the Ministry of Truth to make sure you get all the correct responses.
Now, who you guys don't have apples, do you?
Apple what?
Apple. I don't know.
Why?
Here it says. I mean, the article, and
Ben's
I
using
wish.
an iPhone.
I have an iPhone. I
No,
have an older
no.
Mac that
It-
is
Oh, a
not up to
Mac?
date.
Apple
Okay.
has
I don't use it much.
maintained the controversial bottom charging design. What is the bottom charging design?
Charging from the bottom.
What
On
do you
the
mean?
phone?
It's got
On the
a
phone,
plug?
the plug is at the
Not on the
bottom.
phone. In its new 79 to 99 USB-C Magic Mouse. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you have a mouse,
Yeah.
the magic mouse plug to charge was at the middle of it, at the bottom of it, which made 0 sense, which meant you
Yeah.
can't use it while it's
That's
charging.
exactly
Yeah.
what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Despite years of customer criticism, the port location, unchanged since 2015, renders the mouse unusable while charging. But in the world,
So they're changing it.
they're not. They're maintaining the same.
Oh, so yeah, good for them. Idiots.
Kind of dumb.
Everybody loves the mouse, right?
Yeah.
But complain about that. And that is probably the single complaint that has been consistent. But because of the design, they are unwilling to move it, right? Because that means that the port will be visible somewhere on the surface. Yeah. No, yeah,
Yeah.
this is a mouse that I'm using right now, right? Look, it's like goofy looking and all
Yeah.
that, but it has you see, I put here a magnetic tip, so
Yeah.
here, right? And yeah, so at least, right,
You can.
I can keep on using it
Yeah.
when it's depleted.
Right.
That's fine.
Oh well.
Something can be
Talk about
stylish and functional at the same time, and it doesn't need to matter,
last
right?
thing, designing. The article goes, remember how this fall's Lunar Lake laptops ditched the idea of memory sticks, putting a fixed amount of RAM on the processor package instead? Intel CEO now says that turned out to be a financial mistake, and Intel won't do it again. And he may be axing desktop GPUs too. Future Intel generations of chips, including Panther Lake and Nova Lake, won't have baked on memory. It's not a good way to run the business. So it's really is for us a one off with Lunar Lake. So they're going to go back to memory sticks. I guess the one Lunar Lake, I haven't had a chance to see a motherboard like that did not have memory. So that's interesting. Intel says it was a mistake. Financial mistake. Does that mean it's because they couldn't sell memory sticks, or what?
No, no. I mean, it probably meant that the processor was much more expensive, right?
Yeah.
Because the memory needs to be incorporated in it. Uh, it meant redesigning motherboards.
Yep.
I'm guessing, I'm guessing performance-wise, they actually got a boost, right? Because the memory is much closer to the CPU. They probably do not need a overly specialized controller unless they also support external memory
Right.
completely, right? But it also means that the memory put inside the cost for performance boost here was probably too wide of a gap, and so nobody was willing to pay that price, right? So all of that together was
Yeah, I
probably
guess that's what they mean by it.
it was the wrong turn at the wrong time, right? It might make sense later in the future, but we're still not there, especially when there is a lot more to harvest out of the existing design, which is what what Nvidia is doing and what
Mhm.
AMD is doing. So
And
I
Nvidia
guess that's what
actually, Nvidia surpassed Apple last week in uh, most valuable
interesting.
company in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, it all these changes. I mean, there was an article, something that talked about the new update to Windows 11, the 24H2, and they were saying there is no benefit to anybody unless they have one of those AI machines, PCs, because that's what they're catering it to. I mean, there were some changes, some little changes that
You mean
anybody
the
would see.
Copilot Windows,
There
the
is what
Copilot
is it? I think
ready?
yeah, something like that. I thought they call it
Yeah,
AI
but
PCs or
I thought they dropped Copilot
uh,
PCs.
oh, well, that the thing is, they're saying that it would only make sense to people that have
Well,
Copilot
that's not
machines or
true. Everybody should keep on upgrading because the next
yeah,
upgrade
well,
is going to rely on this one. But it's not interesting. That's what they're saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Anything else? We're
Has
getting
anybody since they've installed Windows 11 like not install a major upgrade? Like I've never seen. It's not like upgrading from Windows 10 to Windows 11, right?
no. I
All of
mean,
these feature upgrades, while they're not interesting, I don't think anybody skipped them just because they're not interesting. So
I mean, the article did not say not to upgrade. He said that there
yeah,
is nothing that you're going to be able to see.
don't expect anything. Yeah,
Yeah,
I do not expect anything from a Windows update
yeah.
anyway. It's like
You can
this,
expect
this,
issues.
the only thing I expect is the unexpected, the Spanish
Well,
Inquisition. Nobody
that's it.
expects the Spanish
That's
Inquisition.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can definitely expect there to be something that's different that you have to deal with. So,
I don't know. My experience with Windows, and I run a very customized system. My experience was none. I've never like felt an upgrade. Like just
the
annoyed that
last
I need
few
to
have been
reboot.
fine, but in the beginning I had issues with printer drivers and other things changing. But it wasn't hard to fix.
Oh,
Good.
that's because you're not upgrading your printer.
Well, that's probably it. These two very old. I have two printers. One is so old that it didn't have Wi-Fi, Blazer, and the other one is has Wi-Fi. But then I had to turn off the Wi-Fi because the actual Wi-Fi chip was not supported anymore.
Oh man.
That was
Yeah.
weird. I
Yeah.
literally switched to the new Wi-Fi 6, and I couldn't get this to work anymore.
Yeah.
If I turned on legacy mode on the router, it didn't work.
But then you slow down everything else.
Yeah. Well, I took it out. I put it back to the latest, and I connected it with a cable.
Yeah. All right. So is that it, or do we have anything else to
Nah,
talk
that's
about?
it.
All right. That was fun. So thanks, Spence. Thanks, Gal. And thanks, Nick. Katie, I hope you're going to feel better. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, Dana, Dina, Mati, Eleanor, Sarid, Yaakov, and Yael. Thanks, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing, back up your hard drive, and update your virus scanner. And change any same passwords where you use them. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. And again, Monday through Friday, 5 to 6 a.m., Nick hosts the Carolina Journal News Hour on WBT in Charlotte, 11:10 a.m. and 99.3 FM. And it's also on YouTube. Just search for it. And Nick and Brian host the Infection podcast every week for game news, survival games, and some political points here and there on Twitch. Just go to infectionpodcast.com to find out when the live show is on if you want to participate. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.